The objective of many observations is to do three things: to see reality, to see what the kids are really experiencing on a daily basis, to get a realistic picture. Second thing is, of course, to have a good eye for instruction. This is the superintendent's job, to make sure that each principal, assistant principal, department head, supervisor, instructional coach has a good eye when they go into classrooms. And then the third thing is how do you get it through to the teacher? How's the feedback going to be gotten through? So it's really heard and followed up on. So here are the details, and this is just a quick summary of a workshop that usually takes 6 hours. So we're squeezing it here. To see reality, again, I think the visits need to be unannounced, frequent, short, and systematic. So unannounced because any announced observation distorts reality. Then teachers actually quite quickly get used to this. It's not a big deal. They kind of prefer this. Frequent, as I mentioned, I think about once a month, about 10 times a year is a good target. Some people advocate for more. Short, the amazing thing is that in 10 minutes, you see a remarkable amount. In fact, when I play 10-minute videos for audiences, or when I make classroom visits with administrators just 10 minutes long, usually there are 7 or 8 significant compliments to give the teacher and an equal number of coaching points that one might make. So 10 minutes, I think, is really when the research is done, and this is really going to be found. And then, as I mentioned, systematic, to make sure that you're sampling beginning, middle, and end of lessons, that you're seeing different days of the week. In elementary school, that you're seeing reading, math, social studies, and science. In secondary, that you're seeing, of the 5 classes that a teacher teaches, that you're seeing a reasonable mix of those. Not all of them perhaps, but a good sampling. So that's the key thing of seeing reality. And again, teachers, when this is explained well, and when administrators handle it well, teachers rapidly like this much better than the traditional system. Okay, the second thing, to have a good eye, I think administrators need to come into classrooms humble, curious, and low tech. Low tech being not a laptop, not a tablet, not a smartphone, but a pad of paper, a note card, to get those good quotes, but not to be furiously writing the whole time. Curious is a good mindset to come into a classroom with, like, how's this going? How are people handling this? How are the kids doing? And humble is really important because you're coming into the teacher's castle. Many teachers are not used to a lot of visitors, and you got to come in a humble fashion. Your body language. I always tell men, take your jacket off, be informal, and and don't don't interrupt. That's one of my things. So then, of course, being observant, and the challenge really in a short observation is what's most important here. I'm seeing a lot. I'm seeing things that are going well. I'm seeing things that I have questions about. How'd that go after I left? And really sort of zeroing in the conversation with, what's the most important coaching point here? And then, of course, you got to look at the bigger picture. What are these teachers' goals for the year? When in my last year teaching, one of my big goals was tightening up my classroom management and working with my colleagues. So you have that in the back of your mind. What did I see the last time I was here? What's the unit plan that this lesson is part of? You have that general picture as you come into a classroom. So that makes you, I think, a good observer. So then the best way to give feedback, and I'm really passionate about this, is face-to-face. I think there's a temptation for administrators to want to send a quick email or leave a quick note with the teacher. And teachers, of course, are a little nervous and curious about what the administrators saw. I really advocate saving that until the conversation and having that as soon as possible afterward. And that's when you can really get into, so tell me a little more about your thinking about that, or what did you hope I would notice, or tell me what was going on just before I came in, or that little girl who was so caught up in the lesson, what made that happen? Questions like that really get the ball going and get the teacher talking. So it's a two-way conversation. And those conversations don't have to be long. If the administrator comes in well prepared and thoughtful, but also with an open mind, they can be like 10 minutes long. Courageous, because sometimes you do see things that are not going well, and there you need to step up. And I think some people even rehearse these conversations beforehand with a significant other or a colleague to make sure that they approach it in the right way. But you got to step up. I mean, if you see things, if you see teachers being sarcastic or snarky, or if you see kids who are disengaged, or if you see mediocre worksheets going on all the time, then you need to say something about it. And then the last piece is where a lot of people are getting hung up, is we've all been trained to write these long observations. And I think this is a trap. If you feel like you have to write an hour and a half of writing and pull it together and everything, that's too much. And it takes too much of your time and will slow you down. So I advocate this program. It's called T-Eval. It's from Tennessee. That limits you to 1,000 characters, and that actually I have found as a paragraph is enough to make your point and to really summarize what happened. Nothing new. You're just saying, as we discussed, here are the things that were going well, and here's the most important point I want you to think about. So those are the 10 key things of many observations. Now here, anytime I ask teachers up front about this, or administrators, what are your worries about these many observations? Here are the things that often come up. 10 minutes is ridiculous. How can you see, what can you see in 10 minutes? Best way to deal with that is show a video. People are often just turned around on the spot. Oh my God, so much happened. Teachers, of course, are nervous that you might come in at a bad moment, and everyone has bad moments. Teachers are afraid you'll disrupt the class. You'll throw the kids off. You'll throw me off. I'll lose my thought in the middle of a sentence. A lot of people feel these short visits are a gotcha. So people need to be reassured about all these. They won't have a chance to explain. Again, the conversation is where that happens. Some people miss the pre-observation conference. That's their chance to sort of put their cards on the table. But a good administrator can see, and with the conversation to supplement it, can see what's going on, and the conversation can fill them out. What are you looking for? And this is an important point up front, is administrators need to be clear when you come in for these many observations, what is it, what's on your mind? What are you looking for? And my suggestion on that, by the way, very short list. What's supposed to be going on here? What's the curriculum? What's the objective? How's it going? How's the teaching or the learning experiences going? And how's the learning going? Are these kids learning it? And those are things, if they're in the back of your mind, you can zero in on. Some teachers don't trust their administrators. Some teachers don't think they know their subject area or their particular area of expertise. And administrators, this is another point about humility. Administrators do need to be humble about, I haven't taught kindergarten myself. Tell me what's your lesson objective here. Tell me what's going on here. Tell me, about the student learning. You can have that conversation without being an expert. Equity is a big concern with many teachers. Will some teachers get more of these many observations than others? And I think administrators need to keep careful track of this and make sure that it's equitable. And I think all teachers, from the best to the newest and the least experienced, need to have these frequent visits. Some people don't think administrators can keep it up. And this comes down to keeping everything short. And then finally, can you really evaluate a person based on these short visits? Again, my experience is that administrators should take the leap of faith and trust that 10 short unannounced visits with dialogue is actually much more accurate than any of the other systems that we've talked about this afternoon. So those are the worries. And in fact, teachers can be reassured on all these things, all these worries.